So about me, I head up a new program at Epic. I'm head of evangelism. My job is basically to work with developers such as yourselves is to help you make great games. I'm a kind of a purist in this regard. I know that certain digital marketplaces have really, kind of given rise to an abundance of content, maybe too much content, an oversupply of content, perhaps, content that tends to all kind of blur together in the mind of the consumer. They're just knockoffs of 2D titles that have been knocked off from other 2D titles, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a core gamer, but even when I play casual games, I want them to look awesome. I want them to stand out. I want them to be different as a consumer. That's what I expect. And prior to Epic, I worked at Apple, and man, did I see a lot of this. I was responsible for in developer relations. I was responsible for all games that kind of came across over to the App Store. So there were two branches at Apple. One was developer relations. We were working with developers. The other was the App Store. I started at Apple in 2006 before there was an App Store. And I was really excited when we opened the SDK for the iPhone and opened up a developer program for that. And I was a little disappointed when they made it uncurated in the sense that pretty much anybody could publish, because I was a little bit worried that you'd just see a flood of content that just would dilute high quality content from pedigreed developers. And unfortunately, I think we saw that a little bit. Lots of strengths with the App Store. You do see the occasional title that pops up out of nowhere and just blows people away because it's novel and creative. But as a business, as a company, it's hard to engineer that. So when you put so much effort into your game, it's disappointing when it gets diluted out. And that phenomenon has given rise to a lot of what you see at this conference. All these app discovery engines, these bot-driven systems to kind of boost you on the charts so the layperson can actually get exposure to your title. Not all games, though, have to follow that approach. I worked very closely with all the big developers on the App Store who had solid engineering and game development plans and built games with polish, with serious marketing behind them, and were profitable. They were profitable. They were good businesses for those companies. Yet you may never have seen them in the charts, and so they never reached into that kind of stratospheric realm that you see with some titles. But they're very, very profitable. And the way that you get there, I think, is with quality development, which I'll talk about a little bit. So prior to Apple, I was with Aegea, a company that created PhysX. I actually coined the name PhysX, my lasting contribution to geeky stuff in the game industry. Prior to that, I was with NVIDIA for a number of years, and I got my start in the industry writing games engines. Now I'm at Epic, and if you're not familiar with Epic, Epic is the creator of many great kind of core gaming franchises, Unreal Tournament, Gears of War, Infinity Blade, and the upcoming Fortnite. I hope will be in that pantheon of great titles. Of course, the other aspect of Epic's business, a business that they've engaged in for 20 years, is Unreal Engine. Typically, in the past with Unreal Engine 2 and 3, it was really a game development standard, but it was targeted at console, high-end PC, very complex project. Sort of very narrow in terms of the types of games that it would allow you to make, shooters and cover shooters. It was also very complex. It was also very expensive. It was a different business model that they were pursuing back in the day. All that changed when Epic released Unreal Engine 4 about a year ago. So Epic architected Unreal Engine 4 fundamentally, from day one, to be cross-platform, to be much more broad specification in the sense of supporting both low-end systems all the way down to mobile and high-end systems, your most advanced PC and console. Today it supports PS4, Xbox One, PCs, all flavors of it, Windows, Mac, Linux, Steam OS. In mobile, iOS and Android, and of course HTML5. Along with that, the supported platforms, you get all the source code, which is a really big deal. Any of you guys who have, struggled with trying to squash a bug, the day you were supposed to go live, or the server's down because there's some client issue, and you're in this, you're in your debuggers, you're in your development environment, you're trying to step into a black box, from another licensed engine. You know how frustrating that can be. Well, Epic, we're game developers. We don't want you to have that problem, so we make all of our source code available. And when I say all, it is all of it, with the exception of stuff that you might get from the console companies. So, for example, if there's PS4 code, you need to be a registered developer with Sony to get access to that PS4 code. But other than that, you get everything. That's all of our rendering code. It's all of our AI code, behavior physics, all that kind of fun stuff. But one of the more powerful things about this source code is the fact that we now have a community of developers that are modifying and extending the source code. This is the first time this has ever been done in the game engine business. Normally, source code in the game engine industry, it's my secret algorithm to do, soft shadows. That's my secret algorithm to make things extra shiny. I'm not going to share that with the world. Epic's approach is, there basically are no trade secrets. Our code is copyrighted. You can't copy and paste it. We can figure that one out. But we want you to take this code and extend it. Take our, essentially 20 years worth of effort and extend it in ways that maybe we didn't think of. And we're seeing this happen today. So via GitHub, which is how you get the source code, there are over 5,000 branches of the Unreal source base now. And developers are giving both features and bug fixes back to us on a regular basis. I think it was with the 4.5 release, we had over 60 new features and over 1,000 bug fixes that were contributed by the community. So those of you who have followed, Linux and Android and sort of other community-sourced efforts, you know how powerful that can be over time. And we're hoping that both Epic and the community developers that leverage our platform will really benefit from that. So all this is offered at $19 a month with a 5% royalty, which I'll get to in a bit. It's free for educational institutions and students. We're seeing enormous traction in that space. We're really, really happy about that. So about that, the 5% royalty, that's essentially on gross revenue. That's money that you make. Okay, that's your income. Why did we do something like that? Oh yeah, well before I get there, it's also free for simulation users. It's free for architectural viz. Basically anything that you make that you don't charge for, that's basically free. If you charge money for it and you're successful, we want a portion of that money. The philosophy is this scheme basically aligns our interests. Again, Epic is a developer, and we know how hard it is to make money in this space. So we don't want you guys to be, out a whole bunch of money to outfit your studio with tools to develop your game, to follow your dream, on the chance that you might be successful. If you are successful, we think 5% is a very reasonable, a portion to give to Epic. We like to think we enable that success. But what's important about that is it aligns the interests of Epic and you, the developer. Basically, we're not successful if you're not successful. This motivates us to keep the features moving along. This keeps us motivated to get the bugs fixed. This keeps motivating us to align our roadmap to your needs. In fact, if you haven't checked it out, we publish our roadmap months out, and the community votes on features that they want to see. We released Unreal Engine 4.0 almost a year ago at GDC last year. We've had 6 major releases since then. These are not simply bug fix releases, but we've introduced major new feature categories. For example, our 2D authoring and editing system, totally new feature category in 4.4, I think it was. We got rid of Scaleform because that was a closed black box. We need to make source code available to everybody, so we created Unreal Motion Graphics, which is our UI system and ties into our blueprint system and our scripting system and everything. That was in the 4.6 release. 4.7, we've already published that we're providing support. 4.8, we're already published that we're providing support for large-scale worlds. So you could do a GTA or a World of Warcraft type game. Again, all this at $19 a month, 5%. We'll be previewing the 4.7 functionality at GDC, those large worlds. There's some pretty exciting stuff in the works. I hope you guys get a chance to see that. So we understand, this model, $19 a month, 5% royalty, that's great for small developers, fantastic for them, in fact. Publishers don't always like it, and there are some developers where an open-ended royalty just isn't going to work with their business model. That's fine. We can talk about custom license. In fact, our custom license business is booming right now because of this phenomenon. All right, so this is just the launcher, but what I wanted to show you is everything is live. We provide a host of tutorial informational content, training videos, instructional pieces. We have a live marketplace that is all what we like to think of as AAA console quality content. We have a different approach to our marketplace. We do vet all content for standards and quality. We don't want just sort of a hodgepodge of small things from 2 guys in their college dormitory. God bless them, they're fantastic, but if you're a professional developer, you need to make sure that you've got welded verts and UV maps are correct and so on and so on. So we scrub everything for that reason. But getting back to that. So that's again about the marketplace. It's a typical industry standard 70-30 split. If you're a developer that has content you want to publish, we'll sell it, you keep 70, and we'll take 30. Support is all online with a custom license. We can talk about custom support plans, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to speak philosophically about what I see going on in the marketplace and why I think Unreal Engine can make a difference. I ran into so many developers when I was at Apple, and at GDC Next in LA, I met one of my favorite ones, a guy named Travis Boatman, who was at Zynga and then Electronic Arts and Jamdat before that. And he was giving a talk on customer retention, which is just an awesome word, customer retention. Yes, of course you want to retain customers. And there's a swath of companies out there, and they all serve a function. Data is important. It's good to understand what your players are experiencing and how they might be progressing through a game, where they might be frustrated and where they might quit, for example. But isn't just customer retention another word for, fun? Have we forgotten that, the game industry, games are all about having fun? Attracting a customer is all about providing them an experience that they've never had before. And the reason I left Apple fundamentally was because I was just so dissatisfied with the number of games that I was seeing that were just, again, clones of clones of clones of clones. And I wanted to see something truly different and worthy of these super advanced platforms that everybody are carrying in their pocket. And with Unreal Engine, you have the ability to deliver Xbox 360 at least, possibly even Xbox One quality graphics today. This takes investment on your part. This takes larger teams. This takes more sophisticated teams. But companies like Apple have shown that customers appreciate design. They appreciate polish. They appreciate beauty and fit and finish that I think is lacking in a lot of titles. Again, it speaks to the core values of Epic. It speaks to our philosophy behind designing this engine. I hope you guys get to take a look. If any of you, one last question, were any of you at the Unreal Night 2 nights ago at the bar across the street? Oh, one person, okay. I generally come to these events with a box of one-year subscription codes for Unreal Engine. I gave out that entire box at that bar, and so now I'm out. But if any of you would like it, come see me afterwards, and we'll exchange information, and we can follow up later. Look for some big announcements at GDC, and I apologize for the AV system. I wish I could show you more. Thank you very much. Q&A. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, any questions? Andy is a wealth of knowledge. So anyone who has anything.
Yes, sir.
You say it works on HTML5, but does that mean you need a player?
No. No, it is just HTML5 code basically loading native binaries from the server. Right, so you do not need a player. I'm not that familiar with what's going on in the web standard space. My understanding, plugins basically are just going away. That model is now obsolete. It will be disallowed by the HTML5 standard, which all browsers are adopting. So if you're delivering games that are reliant on a plugin, you need to transition to HTML5. From Unreal Engine, you can basically just treat it like any other publishing platform, provided, which is basically one click. You design your game. Basically build for HTML5, press a button, give it the target directory, and you're in business. That functionality has been available for a few months now from Epic.
Right. Any others? So I have a question. It's a little bit more on the business strategy side, but I find the $19 a month a very interesting price point. It's so close to free. Can you just explain how you guys arrived at $19 a month and how that, just kind of is part of the enablement strategy?
Yeah. So in the past, Epic, we pursued a custom license business where developers would spend hundreds of thousands, if not low millions of dollars to license our technology. And with a big pile of money comes a very high support expectation, as you'd expect. And so we would have teams of engineers that would essentially help developers. They would go on site. They would help establish art pipelines. They would do performance analysis and debugging so they could help them ship, that kind of stuff. That doesn't scale if you're trying to go to hundreds of thousands of customers, obviously. So we, over this past year, we've been building out a support infrastructure. It's community-based. We have very robust forums. There is incredibly, if you look on our forums, you'll see incredibly fast, a lot of praise from customers just about the fast turnaround time. Epic personnel actually just chiming in. You'll see just a kind of a flood of community support material that's been growing almost exponentially for the past year. But it took us a year to get, and so it's very robust today, but it took us a year to get this long. So sounds a little cynical maybe, but we actually charged the $19 a month to put a little bit of a gate on the number of people that we had coming in. We wanted to make sure that developers had genuine interest and they just weren't simply kicking the tires. We didn't want a flood of just enthusiasts who were downloading the tool and maybe did not have the skills to take advantage of it, and thus would be disappointed. So it was just meant to be a little bit of a gateway. We don't know if we'll want to maintain that gate. We'll see what the future holds. Yeah, and incidentally, our another beauty of Epic is a lot of people say, well, how can you afford to do that? Well, it's part of the magic of scale. We have a lot of developers now at $19 a month. Plus, we have a very healthy custom license business, and we take that revenue and we drive it back into engine R&D and support.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I've got one more, if no one else does. Maybe you could just speak a little bit to, Epic. It's known for more of its AAA franchise games. The Unreal Engine is certainly a shooter engine by its history. Can you speak to more of the casual nature of game design?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I mentioned earlier, Unreal 2 and 3, it was pretty much Epic kind of repurposing the engine that it would develop for its own games. And so those engines were really suitable for creating, like I said, first-person shooters or cover shooters. Unreal Engine 4 was architected from the ground up to be much more versatile. And we provide engine templates, both using our scripting system blueprints and also full C++, for basically every genre that you can think of. So there are templates to do first-person shooter, cover shooters, third-person shooters, as well as driving games, flying games, puzzle games, real-time strategy games, top-down, orthographic, et cetera, et cetera. I would, again, I would encourage you to download the tools and just browse our content. It's a great way to get started. A couple of questions here. How many folks here are on the coding front? C++ coders. All right, that's good. So you don't find that intimidating? And then how many folks are designers and artists? And so C++ is maybe a little intimidating. So I didn't really have a chance to show you blueprints. Again, I can't really run the tool at this resolution, but it's essentially it's a visual representation of our C++ API that's made artist and designer friendly. And because it essentially is built on top of C++, it works very conveniently with the work that the coders are doing. And so what that allows you to do using Unreal is one single coder can support many more artists than he could before. Basically, you can stub out, you can subclass any of the kind of interactive classes, any of the actor pawns in Unreal Engine, expose certain variables or data for the artists, and then using this blueprint system, they can swap in different geometry, materials, shaders, behaviors. They can script all the logic they want. We have many examples of full-fledged AI systems that have been created in blueprints. We've actually published some simple games that were completely written in blueprints with no C++ coding. They're on the App Store today.
Okay, great. Well, we're in. Andy.
All right.
Oh, wait, we have one more here.
Yeah.
Just one more question. I'm sorry if you've heard this before. You probably have, but forgive me for that. How does this compare or contrast with Unity, which is obviously the other big sort of gaming engine?
Yeah, so I'm not a user of Unity. It wouldn't be fair or really appropriate for me to try to draw comparisons there. But what I can tell you is this is a tool set that Epic uses for its own AAA and mobile game production. This is a tool set that has been widely adopted in the AAA space for by companies like Lionhead and 2K and 505 Games. The list is quite extensive. In the mobile space, we're going to start seeing a wide variety of titles ship. Remember, this tool's only been on the market for about 1 year. Game development takes a little bit of time. Our approach has really been kind of top down, and and frankly, we needed mobile hardware to reach a certain threshold. It runs great on iPhone 4 class hardware or better. Forget about 3GS. And speaking, when you consider, just last quarter, Apple shipped 6 million 40. I'm having a hard time grasping the number. When you consider last quarter that Apple shipped 75 million iPhone 6s, I think iPhone 3GS class hardware is irrelevant. So a very top-down approach. It's a very solid engineering approach. We're very proud of the kind of the structure and cleanliness of our C++ code. I'd encourage you to check it out for yourself.
All right, Andy.
Is that it?
Thank you so much.